So when I was a high school principal, Bethany and I had the idea that we said, hey, let's start a school. So we met with someone who actually started a school. It was a great meeting. It was wonderful. After the meeting, we went home and Bethany said, if you want to start a school, that's great, but I'm probably not going to send our daughters. So it was like, wow.
Michael spent nearly 2 decades working in public education and holds a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in Christian leadership, and he has his K through 12 principal certification. He now serves as an assistant pastor at New Life Church alongside the work that they're doing leading the hybrid. And Bethany brings such an important perspective to this work as well. She has a bachelor's degree in biblical studies and a master's degree in counseling and serves alongside Michael in full-time ministry.
It's a hands-on, hearts-on, minds-on approach. They need to be able to get their hands dirty. They were planting plants and they were in the dirt. Like, they need to be able to have their hands on things.
Listen to their story. They were doing other stuff and now they're serving and it's exponentially growing. But I fully believed in homeschooling and I knew that there was a part of homeschooling that was completely isolating.
It's not just one space where kids grow. There are so many spaces where students grow into healthy, capable, resilient young people.
I hope that there are families listening to this, that there are educators listening to it, that there are teacher leaders, that there are community leaders listening to this, and they have been inspired by your story. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of School on a Mission. I'm Gina Watts here with the always curious and wonderfully dapper Mr. Andrew McPeak.
Dapper? Wow, coming in with the dapper. I like that.
Dapper.
Gina?
I feel like you're just a dapper person. Like I want to give you like a hat, like that makes you dapper even more.
I do what I can. I don't know if I want to wear a hat, but
Oh, okay. All right, whatever.
Gina, I'm so glad to be here with you today, and I'm so glad our listeners are here with us. We've got a really great episode lined up, but let's kick it off this way, as we normally do. Folks, if you believe that schools should be more than just essays and GPAs, if you believe that EQs are just as important as IQs, and if you expect amazing things from the next generation, then you are in the right place, because we believe that too.
And this summer on School on a Mission, we're highlighting incredible people and organizations who are helping students thrive beyond the traditional classroom. We're talking with leaders who are supporting young people and families through mentorship, leadership development, wellness, athletics, community programming, and alternative education spaces.
Yeah, and I'm so excited we're doing this series, Gina, because we are recognizing that it genuinely takes an ecosystem of support to help young people flourish, right? It's caring adults, it's strong families, it's meaningful relationships, and it's creative spaces that allow students to grow.
And today's guests are doing exactly that through a homeschool hybrid model that's creating community partnerships and support for families in Pennsylvania. And I can't wait for y'all to meet them, especially because they're my family. They are in the studio today. I talk about them enough. You're like, finally, she's letting us meet them. We'll introduce you to my brother and sister-in-law in just a few minutes.
But before we jump in, Gina, you know what we got to do. We got to do our question of the day. So here it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is one learning experience outside of the traditional classroom that shaped who you are today?
There's so many. My brother's listening into this, and he'll probably say our various fights and fun
Those
times.
are learning experiences.
It's fun. We used to have a lot of fun and, just be wonderful brother and sister together. We do have a lot of great memories. Honestly, it does involve him. I would say traveling. Our mom prioritized traveling over a lot of things. She is a person that likes to be on the go, even and to today, like she's about to be 74 and going to another country and Hawaii at the end, in September. And we have decided it's just going to happen. It's going to happen So let's just go with it. And he's always been like that our whole lives. But why that's an important learning experience, what we learned was really to value other people, places, cultures, to learn different things through travel. We grew up in a pretty, um, it's an impoverished community, but like it's a rural part of Pennsylvania. It's also very beautiful and has a lot to offer, but um, a lot of people there don't all get to travel. And my mom was like, "We might not get new furniture this year, but we're gonna go to Disney, or we're gonna
Mhm.
go, to California, or we're gonna go wherever." And honestly, I think that shaped a lot of who I am and my curiosity for other people. So
Oh, good.
that's
Oh,
my
good.
answer. How about you?
Yeah, I also, like you, thought of, like, travel I have done. I thought about internships. I thought about, mentoring things I'm a part of. But honestly, like, one of the most influential things in my recent history, so if I look at the last, 5 years, is I have started to intentionally go on these, like, wilderness adventures.
You look like a
Um,
wilderness person. You
yeah.
just came out of the woods. Okay,
I
tell me
love a good
more.
hike. I love a good hike. But, what I have found is putting yourself in intentionally, um, complex, but also difficult situations, right? Because nobody's, like, sleeping in the woods going, "I prefer this to my bed at home with air conditioning." Like, nobody's ever thought that thought before, right? That's not why people do it. Like, you do it to do the exact same thing you were talking about with traveling with your mom, which is it widens your perspective and helps you understand the concept that I am a limited human being and I can't do it all. It gives you a connection with nature. The best conversations ever happen while you're out in the wilderness with people that you care about. So that's been a really influential thing for me in the last 5 or 6 years in my life that comes to mind.
I love that. And selfishly, I'm so glad we're friends because if there is a zombie apocalypse or something, I know that if I could just get to Andrew, if I get, he can make sure that I will survive in the woods.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
can
you.
help you with the woods part. I'm not sure about the zombie part, but yeah,
Okay, well, I mean, it'll work out. It's
yeah,
fine. We always need wilderness friends.
we
And not that I'm a diva. I just don't know how to do that.
yeah,
It's fine. But honestly, as you were sharing, I really do think it's such a good reminder that learning happens everywhere and in so many ways, in so many places, through people, through experiences, through community, through relationships. And today's conversation is going to underline that really well.
absolutely. Well, Gina, we are overjoyed. I know you are. I certainly am as well, to be joined by two friends today, Michael and Bethany Jones. They are the founders and directors of The Hybrid in Pennsylvania.
And full disclosure here, I already said this, but I want it just in case you might have fast forwarded through our intro. I want everybody to know that these are my people. These are my people. Michael is my brother. Bethany is my sister in love, and so getting to have this conversation with us today is really deeply personal, and I'm so profoundly proud to get to introduce them and their story to all of you.
Yeah. And I think our listeners, Gina, will know very quickly that they're not just here because they're related to you, right?
Not at
After our
all.
listeners
I had
hear
to
more.
convince them to do it. They were like, "No, we don't have
In
time
fact,
for your little
they wouldn't
podcast."
be here if they
Yeah,
weren't related to you because you convinced them to be here. So, but honestly, like, y'all are going to listen to what they're building, what they're doing, the impact that they're making, and you're going to absolutely understand why they were a perfect fit to spotlight in this series. So we're really excited you guys are here.
so let me do a little intro for y'all and introduce you to my family. Michael and Bethany have been married for more than 17 years. I know because I was there. I was in the wedding. And are raising four daughters, my beautiful nieces, together in Pennsylvania. Michael spent nearly 2 decades working in public education and holds a bachelor's degree in education, a master's in Christian leadership, and he has his K through 12 principal certification. He now serves as an assistant pastor at New Life Church alongside the work that they're doing leading the hybrid. And Bethany brings such an important perspective to this work as well. She has a bachelor's degree in Bible and a master's degree in counseling and serves alongside Michael in full-time ministry. Together, they've spent more than a decade homeschooling their own children, which eventually led them to create the hybrid in 2022. What started as a desire to help families feel supported and successful in their homeschooling journey has now grown into a thriving community serving more than 60 students through shared learning, parent partnership, volunteer teachers, and a really relational approach to education. So thank you both for being here today and saying yes to my forced request. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, all right, first question. First question here. You both have experience in ministry, education, counseling, parenting, and homeschooling. All of it. I feel like all of that's required too to do what you're doing. But you have all of those experiences. I'd love to start here. What were you seeing in families or students that made you realize that there was a need for something like the hybrid? You've got all this experience. You're seeing all these people in different spaces. What made you say, let's make the hybrid?
Yeah. Well, I can start off. So when I was a high school principal, while I was still in that position, Bethany and I had the idea that we said, "Hey, let's start a school." And so we met with someone who actually started a school in a rural area in Pennsylvania. We had a team of people that came as well to brainstorm some ideas, and it was a great meeting. It was wonderful. And then after the meeting, we went home and Bethany said, if you want to start a school, that's great, but I'm probably not going to send our daughters. So it was like, wow. And so that made me like, okay, well, we got to really think about this and how are we going to do this? So I left my school position and then I went into ministry full time. And then through that time, we just prayed and we prayed and we prayed to try to figure out there is a need here in the community, but what is it? So we didn't want to just jump into something just to do something. But we wanted to do something because we felt like that's where God was leading us. So as we saw that there was a need in this area, but it's also in around the nation. We saw that there was a need for really for families to connect with each other, even within themselves. So it was a desire that we saw that families need to connect with other families, but they need to also be able to learn how to connect even better with their own kids as well. And so we realized that as Bethany was homeschooling and I was working in the public school, we saw this need for homeschooling and we saw this desire for community. And that's where the ideas of the hybrid started.
I
That
think also
that
too.
yeah,
I
yeah, leave that in because
yeah,
I was gonna ask
I
you a
think
question. Yeah.
also too, in full defense, like I supported him 100%. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
I didn't support him in his thought and his passion. It's just that I had been homeschooling our girls while he worked outside of the home full time, and I believed he supported me, but I fully believed in homeschooling, and I knew that there was a part of homeschooling that was completely isolating. There
Mhm.
are a lot of community events, but it was almost like you were an island as a homeschooling parent because it was kind of this nuance of like, you're weird, like you're gonna
Mhm.
raise weird kids. And so there wasn't much community connection. And so after we had the meeting and we realized we were on two different platforms, we wanted to help people and wanted to impact people, but we weren't in the same boat. And so after we prayed, we realized that I had already been running a homeschool co-op that met pretty regularly, but we decided that it needed to be more. So that's the hybrid was born.
That's awesome. And Andrew's gonna jump in, but one of the things Michael said about like Bethany was like, I'm not sending our girls there. I think I think also it's a an encouragement that you saw a thing, you had a vision for it, but then you came together, right? Like you talked through the thing, you figured out how could it work for our family so that we can get behind it and then together and then it ended up serving so many more. Um yeah, and then just personally seeing it grow from an idea that we got to talk about on the beach to 60 kids is nuts. But I'll hand it over to Andrew.
Yeah, well, I want to jump in because I love so much about what you guys are doing. One thing I appreciate about your story is like so many people hear about homeschooling or hybrid models or whatever it is, and they think, oh, they're just looking for another educational option, right? But that's not really the impetus for this, right? What you guys were trying to do was really create a support model that involved community and involved connections for families. So I want you guys to double down on that a little bit and answer this. Like, what role do you feel like connection and partnership in particular play in the success both of the student themselves, but also in the success of the families? Like, how does that connection component with the community make a difference?
Without connection, the hybrid wouldn't exist. And so we are coming alongside of the family who has already chosen to homeschool. They've already made that choice for their family for whatever reason. And we are coming alongside and just filling in some gaps that they feel like maybe this isn't my strongest suit at home or we're lacking here. And we are connecting with the family that is already on the same mission that we're on. So without the connection to begin with, we wouldn't be here. And we wouldn't have grown from 26 students our first year to probably over 60 this year, what it's looking like. So I'm not even sure exactly, the connection part of it is it just comes so natural and so fluid in what we're doing because we are both very relational that it just happens because that's what the model and that's what the hybrid does. It already takes what the family is doing and we just kind of come alongside and we just continue the journey together.
Yeah, and I think with that too is that I've had in my administrative positions, you build connections with people, um, and that was a great thing. And I still have connections within multiple school districts in the area. So I'm not, we are supporting educating your children is whether you're sending them to school or whether you're homeschooling them. But we definitely believe in that it is a parent's right and they have that opportunity to love on their children and help their children, whatever it is. So that's why we continue to choose to connect within the hybrid, but also within the community as well.
I think something also kind of speaks to that connection is we don't advertise our program. We do not have a Facebook page. We do not have social media. We do not have a website. We do not put it out in old school newspapers. We don't do any of that. And we've always said that we want people to come to people. We don't want people to come to just our program. And so we have grown just by word of mouth. And so the connection that we have with families, the connection we've had with communities, with our community is that's just proof of the growth because that's the only way the word's getting out. Like we hardly ever talk about it. Like we went to a picnic on Monday and I was like, don't talk about it. And Mike's like, you talked about it. And I was like, it's like we're like so like not that we don't want it to grow. We just want it to be natural. And we want that relationship and that relational aspect and that connection that people have to grow the program, not because somebody sees our ad. Not that that's wrong, but just because they've seen an ad and they think it's cool. So
It's such a good lead into my question because I was just thinking about, you went, like you said, you went from 26 to over 60 students. And if you probably talked about it more, it would grow even faster. But the amazing thing that I've witnessed you guys do incredibly well is that, you're using language like it to grow naturally or organically. But really what you're saying is that there's like a discerning fit that happens. Like it's not, you don't need to market it because you're not trying to fill a building.
yeah.
Correct.
You're trying to help people discern fit if they want to be in community with you and if you're the right community for them to be in. And that's a lesson in itself that I wish we had more time to just teach people on that about fit. So but my question is that, so now you're growing and you're scaling at a rate that feels good for you, right? Like that this natural expansion. What have you learned about what the students need, right? So like obviously like what 24 students need versus what 60 students need, and those students come with families who are a part of this community. What have you found that they need to thrive academically, socially, emotionally, or spiritually in a space like this? Like, what are some of the things that are coming up for y'all?
Yeah, we have talked about that in everything that we do. We want to make sure that we focus in on that. We know that, kids need to feel safe. They need to feel secure. They need to know that they're being heard as well. And that's whether you're living in a rural area or in a big city. We see that, like, that families, um, and kids, that they need people. So people need people, as Bethany and I were talking, whether, you're in a city and you're side by side, where you share a wall with your neighbor, or if maybe your neighbor lives a mile away, we realize that there is a need for people needing people. So with that need, we also see that, but kids need to be heard. They need to feel safe. They need to feel secure in all that they do. We definitely have, in our first year of doing hybrid, we came up with this thing that we really feel like God put on our hearts, which was, it's a hands-on, hearts-on, minds-on approach. um, that our kids need to have their hands, being able to be on things. They need to be able to learn things, with their hands. They need to be able to get their hands dirty, sometimes physically dirty. We had a homesteading class this year. The kids were, they were planting plants, and they were in the dirt. Like, they need to be able to have their hands on things. But they also need to have their hearts on, as well, like, because we want our kids to have an emotional intelligence as well, and be sensitive to others. So whenever there's a situation that goes on, or there's an issue, that we're able to talk about it as well. And then lastly is, just the minds on. We want to activate their mind, that they're not just there, that we're, filling in time, but that we're activating their mind and their thoughts, and helping them grow in that as well. So
I think we've also learned some unique experiences too because I think almost half of our kids come from some kind of adoption or foster care situation. And so we have learned that their structure of learning, including our own family, may look a little bit different because of just past experiences and past trauma that they might be experiencing. So we've been very quick to learn that education also comes with a lot of grace. And so we might have one idea of how you should sit down and you should, do this assignment, quote unquote, for us, but they may look a little bit different because of just how we need to uh, um, adapt to each child's needs. Now, sometimes we're not able to do specific needs, but we do generally try. And our volunteers are amazing. I mean, we have an amazing team that we couldn't do any of this without. And so we have trusted adults who just love the kids that we have probably more than we do. I know they love sometimes my own children more than we do. So, they just have such a passion, and God has developed this team of now I think a dozen people that to volunteer 2 days a week to homeschool or to help educate children from sometimes sticky situations. And so we've just really learned how to be creative with our educational approach, but also just set those firm boundaries of like, nope, we're gonna do this assignment. I'll sit next to you while you do it. It still needs to be done. But we also have clear communication with their families of like, hey, they're really struggling. Maybe you can work on this at home. And so we've just really tried to adapt to each need if possible, and our team is amazing with that as well.
So good. So good. Well, folks, we've got a few more questions for you guys, but before we do, we're going to take a really quick break. Friends, one thing we love about today's conversation is this reminder that students thrive when families, mentors, educators, and communities are all working together.
And if you're passionate about helping the next generation flourish, we'd encourage you to check out our Next Gen Insider from Growing Leaders. It's filled with practical tools, encouragement, and resources for anyone investing in young people. We'll also make sure we have a link and a few helpful Growing Leaders resources in today's show notes. So be sure to check those out.
Thanks, Gina. All right, let's jump back into the conversation with Michael and Bethany. Okay, Michael, you've got a background in public education. Bethany, I know yours is in counseling. And I would imagine that those two backgrounds that you kind of brought with you to the hybrid give you both unique perspectives on the work that you're doing. So as you both reflect on those backgrounds and then what you're doing now, how did those experiences shape the culture and the environment that you guys are trying to create with the hybrid?
They shaped it a lot. Just kidding. No, just kidding. I don't know. I think we have worked with such a diverse group of people and individuals throughout all our professional and personal lives that I think we have just learned how to be relational in everything we do. And I think that is a component to what we're doing. I think sometimes why are we different from other programs or other things that are happening? And I think it's just because we really just want to focus on the person as a whole. We're not here just to educate their minds and make sure that they, can fill in the blanks, but we're here to look at their entire being. I know when Mike and I were first married, we were watching uh, an X-Men movie or something like that, and we were saying how it would be really cool to start a school for exceptional children, all these gifted kids. And I looked at him the other day and I was like, Michael, we have a school for exceptional children. Like, it was just like this, like, epiphany of like, wait, we did this. Like, I don't even think that was possible. But in my counseling background, I learned specifically to look at the entire person. Like, if you're seeing a behavior that's happening, more than likely it's not just because the kid wants to be bad. There's something going on. And I think that's one thing that I've taken from the different careers that I've done, and even our journeys through foster care and adoption. You have to look at the entire student as a whole before you can make a decision on their academic needs.
Yeah, and I feel like even from the professional, seeing it from the school, I was a junior high teacher, I was an elementary teacher, high school principal. So you see the good, the bad, and the ugly of them all, and that's the kids and their families as well. But I think just being intentional, and having that time to connect with the kids, but also to connect with the families and support the families on their journey. That's some of the things we say when homeschooling is a journey, and we want to be able to support families in that. So I think as we are helping kids navigate everyday situations, and it's not always pretty, but it's being able to come alongside them and and it's pushing them in a place to where God has called them to be. I'm just trying to help them find who they are as well. So we are really grateful for this opportunity as well.
I think one thing too was Mike's experience as a high school principal. It has made him more confident to tackle sticky situations. So oftentimes I'm like, "Hey, you answer this text message," or "Hey, this phone call's for you." And so that's really given him the confidence to do that, but also to lead a team of people. Like, that takes a whole different set of skills than just teaching, a classroom of kids. And I appreciate his experience in making schedules and leading a team, because that's something that I'm not familiar with. And so I was really glad for that time that he spent as a high school principal that could make us a well-rounded team in this endeavor.
This isn't the question, but for our listeners, we always encourage our listeners, have a pen and paper ready, be taking notes. And as the career development person that always is thinking about career coaching, the thing that I hope you're hearing in Michael and Bethany's story is that nothing will be wasted. They had different career paths, they had different plans, and things came together for their calling together as a family. And I think sometimes when people hear stories like this, they miss the thing that you were able to take what you had and use it for a different thing, for a next step. And there's folks listening to this that feel stuck. They feel like, I want to move on. They're probably hearing Michael's story of like, you did what? You were a principal and what did you do? You quit? What did you do? And then they're hearing Bethany's story and they're like, you you were a counselor and you said, I choose to be at home with poor girls and teach them. And and Michael and Bethany are laughing because they know that's not it. If they lived closer, they would be having our youngest child in their house. for homeschool and for hybrid. But they live 5 hours away, so we can't do that. But I just hope that our listeners are encouraged by that, like, listen to their story. They were doing other stuff. They had people paying them to do jobs, and now they're serving, and it's exponentially growing and doing the thing that it was intended to do. So that's such an encouragement. Michael, you mentioned the hands-on, parts-on, minds-on approach that you have, and how that shapes the learning environment, the education environment that you guys are creating. Could you both walk us through an overview of how you approach teaching and like what does the student experience when they engage with hybrid? You've both like shared a little bit, like given us a little window into what it would look like. So I don't know if it would be best to use like, hey, this is what we do in a week or this is what we do in a day. But I'm sure there's people listening that are like,
What do you really?
I have information, but I want
Yeah.
more. I want
Well,
more.
real quick
So
before we do that, when you were just talking about like, pen and paper, write things down, 17 and a half years ago, when we got married, we had on our cups, it said, let your life be a movie worth recording, right? That was the theme of our wedding. And we were younger at that time. There was different things. And I don't think we realized what movie was going to be recording and how many different people play a part in that. So it's not just about our movie. It's about the movie of the people that are around us as well, that we are helping to be able to be successful in their own lives as well. But so just I guess a screenshot of the leak. Well, that's hard.
We're a 2-day program if you want like the logistics. So we're a 2-day program. We run Mondays and Tuesdays from 9:30 to 2:30. The kids arrive, they go to the first class. We always teach history, a Bible, and a science of some sort. It changes every year. And then we usually have 2 to 3 electives depending on the volunteers that we have and the class breakdown that we have. This year we'll have classes broken down into 6 different age groups. Last year was 5 different age groups because we really want to keep our classes close to as small as we can and without overwhelming our volunteers as well. But the crazy thing is we've gotten so many texts after our break here of teachers who are just like, "Hey, can I have this? I need this curriculum." I mean, they're excited. It's so crazy. It's wild how God has put that together. Anyways, so we're 9:30 to 2:30 and then it's 40-minute classes of those subjects. And so we have volunteers to teach all age groups. So we go K to 12, which is a challenge in itself to teach a subject from K to 12, but all our volunteers have adapted and have done it really well, and they do enjoy it. Um, and then we run 2 14-week sessions. So we start in September, we run till just ahead of Christmas, and then we take a break for about a month, and then we run from the middle of January till the middle of April is usually how we run our program. So yeah, we last year we had things like US geography, homesteading, we had Old Testament Bible, we had art, like a hands-on craft, like they were learning to sew and like weave and like crazy things like that. She was amazing.
I mean, this is kindergarten to 12th grade.
Yes.
Like boys and girls, that all of them were doing it and doing well.
Yeah, and they learned the states and capitals, and they did a public speaking, and then a gym class that we always had prayer requests about that their bodies were sore because they did too many squats in gym class. And I think that the cool thing about the hybrid is, and a lot of people who are homeschooling or who have a stigma of homeschooling think that kids are socialized. I could argue that term, but that's a different time and place. And so, it gives a time for kids to learn together, because when you are at home, you do only learn with the people that are in your home. And so when you have the chance to learn with kids, students, adults, it does help you develop those communication skills that you will need in long-term life. And so that does aid in that part. So if you want to group that under the socialization category, you can do that. But they are learning to work together in a team. And so I mean, that's kind of what our week looks like. Like I said, it's Mondays and Tuesdays, and we run it from 9:30 to 2:30. So
So cool. So cool. Well, we're under our last question. This conversation has gone by really fast. I guess I want to hear what you guys are dreaming about. So, like, as you look ahead, you grew it to 60 without even trying. It sounds like. What excites you most? What gets you the most jazzed about the future of the hybrid, and what impact do you think it will continue to have in your community in the future?
So, if you think of the word excitement, that's a very interesting word, Andrew. But the word excitement, it brings emotions and it brings an enthusiasm, and there's some kind of a physical reaction as well. So does fear has those same actions as well. And it excites us. But there's also some fear because it's the fear of the unknown. Like we are growing at a pace where it's like, okay, the building is only so big. And it was interesting because we started off with 2 rooms and then we used another room for lunch. And then it was, okay, 3 rooms and another room for lunch. And then this year, I mean, we had 5 rooms and then another room for lunch. So, I mean, we are just continue. So it's exciting to see how it grows, but it's not even just about the hybrid. Hybrid's not a program, it's the people. And when I had a message from a parent who was coming, like one of our teachers, like our teachers get here all the time, like they just want to be here to do something. And they said, "Oh, well, I'll be over, but I have to go to this other teacher house because she is a nail a nail technician, and she was taking her daughter over there to get her nails done for her birthday." So that excites us because it's the relationships that are being built, and it's not even about us. It's just about those relationships are being built within families, and they connect as well. So we definitely see that there's a need, and there's a need of obviously of educating all of our kids. But we get excited because families are feeling more confident that they can do it and that we can be that support system to help them, to push them, to encourage them, to empower them to do what they feel like they're called to do.
And some exciting things, we graduated 2 students this year, and now their parents are their facilitators, and so they will graduate with a parent-given diploma, which is recognized in the state of Pennsylvania. But, we were able to give them a graduation ceremony with a full-on cap and gown, and so it's things like that to see the success that excites us for future. Um, as our kids grow, they get older too, so their futures excite us, but I think overall, we're just excited to see where the Lord leads us. I don't think we thought it would be what it is. I don't, each year I think we step back and we say, okay, is this still what we're supposed to be doing? Is this what this looks like? And I think each year we say, yeah, because we need it as a family. I'm not sure that we could continue the journey of homeschooling if we didn't have the hybrid as well, which is weird. Homeschool 4 kids or teach 60 kids. Some days I'd rather teach 60 kids. It's so it but I think when we see those families who are like, I literally cannot do this anymore, continue to do it, we're like, okay, God, this is still the calling you have for us. And I think that excites us as well as gives us a little trepidation. But I think overall it's excitement.
It's so good. It's such a reminder that, so much of the time when we experience something we call calling, it's something we have to keep saying yes to every single day, and it feels like you guys are doing that. So this has been such a great conversation. We're so grateful that you guys chose to spend some time with us, or we're actually forced to spend some time with us by Gina. But I do really love hearing how intentional you guys are and how you're creating not just educational space, but also community where students, families feel known, they feel supported, they feel connected. Those things really matter. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And I'm just going to take a minute here and personally just thank you and also tell you, I tell it to you privately, I'm telling it to you publicly. I love you both so much, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm going to try to not cry right now, but it's fine because our listeners are fine. They know who I am. It's season 4. They know who I am. But as your sister, it has been really beautiful watching the way that you pour into families, that you pour into students, that you deeply care about the next generation, and that you think of it in this holistic way that doesn't exclude families, but prioritizes them and creates community for those families to thrive and ensure that not only are their children successful, but the community around them, the village around them is successful. And what you're building, it's so incredibly evident that it's needed in more communities around the world. And I hope that there are families listening to this, that there are educators listening to it, that there are, teacher leaders, that there are community leaders listening to this, and they have been inspired by your story, and that your girls will continue to grow up and just be so proud of their parents,
I love you.
maybe
Love ya.
just as much
Thank
as
you
I
guys
am.
so much.
I love you both.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
has been so good. So good. Good words, Gina. Well, for me, I think today's conversation is a great reminder of the reason that we do this podcast, but also the reason that we chose the theme for this summer, which is it's not just one space where kids grow. There are so many spaces where students grow into healthy, capable, resilient young people. And when we recognize that, it allows students to be at their absolute best.
Yep. Well, that brings us to our final segment, Tears and All. It's time for a DMI. DMI, of course, stands for Don't Miss It. We will both highlight the one thing from today that we don't think that you should miss. So, Mr. McPeak.
My turn first.
I think I know. I already know what it is. And that's why I wrote down 3, because you're going to take the one that I wanted to say, which is fine. But what is your DMI? Let the audience know.
Well, I did really like the hands-on, the hearts-on, the minds-on. I knew that you knew. Gina muted herself, so you can't see her freaking out. She knew that I was going to say that. I did really like that. I think more educators in all contexts need to be thinking about the holistic student, right? Engaging the whole student. But I did want to make a comment, even beyond that, to say something that they were saying, but I want to connect more dots, because there's a lot of educators maybe listening to this and they're going, well, what am I supposed to, drop my job like Mike did, and I need to follow, in the steps and, create a homeschool. Maybe that might be the step. But I think what I really want listeners to take away from this is to recognize this triangle of connections that have to be in place in order to create success for the student, right? There is the student, right? There is the community, which in many places is the school. And then there is the family, right? And I go into so many schools and they got the school part down and they're working on student success, and they haven't thought at all about family engagement. Oh yeah, that's that thing I need to do. And then there's a lot of places where your typical homeschool situation where they're engaging family and they're working on academics, but they haven't thought about the community piece. And this is what I like so much about what Michael and Bethany are doing, is they're going, the strongest shape is a triangle. We've got to get all 3 of these pieces correct if we're going to create an environment where students can really truly succeed. And that is focusing on the academics, focusing on the family, and focusing on the connection to community. And when we get all 3 of those right, and that's what I say, you don't have to leave your job as an educator in a school in order to start paying attention to that mission. And so that's kind of the DMI that I'm taking away. I've got a little triangle drawn on my little sticky note here, and I'm going to be talking to more people about that, Gina. I love it.
Listen, what you guys don't understand is that Andrew and I will have a meeting and I'll word vomit something and he'll bring it back to me, and it's like, oh, a picture. Here's a picture. And I'm like, can you just make sense of the words I'm trying to say? And then he brings a picture and then we have an infographic, and I'm like, I'm a genius now. Thank you. He does it all the time. I also am sitting here and I'm like, oh, Andrew, Bethany, and Michael can write a book together. That's the next book. So I don't know. This
could be.
You guys can
could
talk,
be.
exchange information. No, that was really good, Andrew. That was good. Of course, it was the hands-on, hearts-on, minds-on approach. Copywritten according to this podcast in 2026. I dare you to try to take it, anybody. Also, that is one of the things I wrote down. The other thing though, Michael and Bethany, and it ties into what you were sharing, Andrew. is the community versus program. The hybrid isn't a program, it's the people. It's all about the way you talk about it. It's the intentionality you have around what you've prioritized. I think sometimes we name things in strategic plans or in documents, and we have these things that are our pillars, but then we don't necessarily live them out. Like, we've named it as a value, but then it lives on a wall somewhere, or it lives in an email or on a website, and it's not actually our behaviors don't align with the thing that we say is important. You say the thing's important and you prioritize it as important in your behaviors. And so, yeah, that really stayed with me. Hybrid is not the program, it's the people. That's how this all works. And at the end of the day, folks, I know we're talking a lot about AI right now in our world, and shout out to Andrew in his book that is forthcoming about AI. And it has its place and it's important, but it can't replace people. It can't replace people in the sense of community and connection and relationships. There's some things that technology cannot do for us. And Michael and Bethany prioritizing community might just save the next generation. That's just what we need to do. So, yeah.
So good, Gina.
Yeah.
We've laughed, we've cried. Been so good.
All the things. All the things.
All the things. Well, Michael, Bethany, I got to say thank you again so much for you guys joining us today, the meaningful work that you're doing. You guys are incredible. It's been so fun to meet you and hear more about your heart and your mission. It's been a really great time. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. It's our pleasure. Friends, listeners, thank you for joining us today on this episode of the School on a Mission podcast. Now, before you hit skip on to your next podcast, we've got a little challenge for you. Go grab a pen, a notebook, a sticky note, or even the back of your hand. Some of you are like, we do have phones and technology. Okay, then use that. Whatever. Here, I need you to document something. We want you to think about what's one action step you're going to take after listening to this podcast. Maybe it's something that you're going to do this week. It's something that you're going to do tomorrow. But are you going to maybe investigate? Get curious, ask a few more questions about what's homeschooling like in your community. Is there somebody doing something like the hybrid where you live? Or maybe, how can I get more information about the hybrid and learn best practices? Whatever it is, make a plan. Make a plan of how you can maybe prioritize community and connection over all the other things that we're putting first in our lives. Do you got it? What's the thing you're going to do? Did you write it down? Perfect. Now, I want you to DM us with that action step. DM us on whatever platform you're connecting with us on. And let us know. That's a little bit of accountability on your part. We want to know what you're doing. We can't wait to see what awesome things you're up to and cheer you on as you're doing it.
Absolutely. And don't forget, folks, to subscribe to the Next Gen Insider from Growing Leaders. Check today's show notes for additional resources connected to today's conversation.
Until next time, friends, stay curious, stay bold, and keep leading your school on a mission.